Hello and welcome to C.E. Lovick's Fireside Chat. I'm C.E. Lovick. Today we will be discussing the 3-act plot structure. I hear a lot about this, and I think overall it is a tried and true method of creating an engaging story. It's been around for like hundreds, dare I say thousands of years. So it's a method that works. Now, don't let this stifle your creativity. If you have other ideas or your story doesn't exactly fit this structure, that's okay. Take what you want from this and leave the rest. But I think this can help you sketch out your plot more easily. And maybe it can bring clarity to your story. I've listed my sources below in the description for more details. Let's get into it. The 3-act structure. Think of it as the beginning, middle, and end. That's what it is. All right, Act 1. You hit the reader right away with your hook. This pulls the reader into your story. Once you've got them hooked is the setup. You're setting the stage. You're showing everyone the environment in which your protagonist lives. This is the status quo. This is where you show some of the character's flaws or strengths. You reveal relationships here. About halfway through Act 1 is the inciting incident or the call to adventure. It is here where the status quo changes. Conflict is revealed. However, after this event, the protagonist isn't quite ready to act until the first plot point or a very key event occurs. This is when a decision is made. And that decision is, should I act or should I not act? Well, if you don't want a story, you wouldn't act. But our protagonist is going to act from this point. And thus begins the quest and concludes Act 1. Act 2. The protagonist has decided to act and the quest begins. The action begins to increase. Tension builds. Obstacles are thrown in front of the protagonist to stop their journey. Each new obstacle increases in potency. The stakes are higher. The protagonist believes they understand what they're up against and they know how to handle it all. But then they come to the midpoint or the midpoint reversal. This happens surprisingly in the middle of the story. And something happens that throws the protagonist a curveball. There's a big change. Instead of proceeding with certainty, the protagonist realizes they may have underestimated the antagonist. Doubt and confusion cloud the protagonist from this point. Then the dark moment occurs. This moment is the lowest point for the protagonist. There's a lot of self-reflection, a lot of doubt. They're questioning if they even should continue this quest at all. And this leads us to our second plot point, or another key event, and it's a decision. Should I continue my quest? Of course you should. And that concludes Act 2. Act 3. The protagonist pulls themselves up. Having learned exactly what they're up against, they proceed with increased vigor. We move through the pre-climax, increasing tension and pressure ever upwards towards the final confrontation. This is the climax of our story, usually happening in one scene. And once the climax is over, we have reached the denouement. The dust has settled, and we see if the protagonist has reached their goal or not. Is it one of triumph or one of tragedy? This is where we provide finality to the reader, and we tie up any loose ends. And thus concludes our story. I hope I was able to give you some good tips and advice on the 3-act plot structure. This is C.E. Lovick, wishing you well. Keep writing, keep creating, and keep telling the story the way you want to. Thank you.